thank you so much for joining here Beyond the Podium. And you just sent out a big 24-point plan. Explain to us and to the viewers here what's in this 24-point plan that you call the plan to restore the American dream and make life more affordable.
Well, thank you for your attention to this. I think the American dream is slipping out of reach for millions of people, if not simply impossible for millions more, mainly because they can't access those critical milestones that kind of define the American dream, whether it's buying a home, whether it is getting a post-secondary or college education or a skills-based education to allow you to enter the middle class, whether it's affording childcare, healthcare, or even retirement. Everything seems to be out of reach. And part of the reason is because they are becoming unaffordable. And so we're putting out this plan, A, because I and my family have been privileged to live the American dream because of the American government. And B, because right now we need to make sure other people have access to that same dream, to be able to realize their full potential. And so we tried to address different stages of life and the different challenges that come with that, especially right now, and try to do so with a little bit of detail as well.
Going off of that, you've been in office representing the 8th District here in Illinois since 2017. How does this 24-point plan differ from maybe things you've tried to get done in the past, things you've done in the past? Or at what point in time are you saying now this is the new way forward, different from maybe some things I've done in the past that has led to maybe why people can't afford the American dream?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily different than what I've done in the past. However, certain issues have become more acute over time, have become more urgent to address right now. One of the issues that I've spent almost a decade in Congress working on is post-secondary education and basically skills-based career technical and vocational education for the 62% of Americans without a four-year college degree. While our four-year and university systems are considered world-class, unfortunately, the rest of our post-secondary education system is not. And so I and a Republican colleague of mine authored the law that modernizes that sector of our post-secondary education system. That law has helped 11 million people get a higher quality skills-based education. It has been wildly successful, but terribly underfunded. And because it has been terribly underfunded, that part of our education system is not only as good as it could be, but it's also expensive, needlessly expensive. And so I'm trying to make that more affordable so that people can, again, access opportunities to get into the middle class and to stay there as well.
What is an example of how you could make higher education more affordable? Is it putting an actual law in place to cap how much universities are allowed to charge? What explain that to me, to how to say this is how you actually could make it more affordable.
Great question. I actually have legislation with regard to four-year universities and colleges and all similar programs. It's called the College Transparency Act. It's one of the biggest bipartisan initiatives to bring radical transparency to student outcomes that are achieved by going to any institution of higher learning in the United States. That means, what kind of salary will you earn? Will you get a job in the field in which you are trained or you got a degree? How long do people last in that field? And so forth. Right now, people know the price tag on their institutions of higher learning, but they don't know what the outcomes are. So they're not able to shop. And so what we're saying is, by making the College Transparency Act actually legislation and law, you can finally enable students and families to make informed decisions about where to go to college or university, but also to bring some price discipline, some market discipline to universities and colleges, which are all charging tuitions that are going through the roof. In addition to that, however, with regard to other opportunities for post-secondary learning, we also need to help them because they don't have enough assistance for instructors, facilities, equipment, all the things necessary to enable people to learn and earn. I very much believe in apprenticeships, and yet those are oversubscribed. There's not enough resources to provide those, but we know that apprenticeships are incredible opportunities to basically learn a trade, learn how to get the skills to do a job, and then to be in that job for an extended period of time.
Raja, according to census data, Illinois lost almost 300,000 people between the last two censuses, 2010 to 2022. Um, as a whole, the United States in that time gained 7% in population growth. What needs to be done if you're elected to state senate to represent the state in the Senate to see that Illinois actually has population growth that mirrors the United States population growth over the next decade?
Well, I think that what we have in Illinois, which we got to take advantage of, is our human capital. We have some of the finest talent anywhere in the United States. We also have a lot going for us in terms of our logistics. We are at the crossroads of the country in terms of our interstates, in terms of our airports, in terms of the 5 or 6 Class 1 railroads that go through Illinois. And so we've got to take advantage of that. But what I would like to see happen is for Illinois to take advantage of its human capital strengths, its logistics strengths, but also the fact that it has cutting edge research and innovation being done in Illinois. And we need to keep more of that and the benefits of that in Illinois. A lot of times, some of our graduates from our fine universities and colleges and trade schools in Illinois, they end up going to other places around the country. Well, we need to make sure they come back home. I think that our current administration in Springfield is trying to do a good job of attracting them back home, but we need to continue to do that. At the federal level, I'm going to do whatever I can to assist in that and also to bring back resources to Illinois to invest in those institutions, but also in those sectors where we have vibrant private sector innovation and opportunities that will lead to more job creation.
Roger, Senator Durbin was one of the few Democratic senators who actually voted with Republicans to reopen the government during the longest shutdown in government history. In his position, would you have done the same?
No, I actually voted against that continuing resolution at that time. Why? Because I believe that it's very important that we extend the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act for the 22 million people who rely upon them to afford their health insurance. Right now, if we don't extend those particular tax credits, and that's unfortunately something that my Republican colleagues don't want to do at this moment, then 4 million people are going to lose their health insurance on top of the 13 million people who are losing their health insurance because of what the president calls the big beautiful bill, and I call the large lousy law. That includes more than 500,000 Illinoisans, by the way. Why is that important for all of us? Because it's going to send our healthcare systems into a spiral. And we have 11 hospitals that are going to close in Illinois, including 9 in rural areas in Illinois. If they close, everybody is negatively impacted.
Continuing on, there are currently multiple bills going around Congress with bipartisan support on artificial intelligence. What kind of guidelines, safeguards do you think the federal government needs to implement to keep Americans not only safe from AI, but also from losing jobs to AI?
Right. I think we have to play offense and defense with regard to AI. On the defensive side, there need to be guardrails. What does that mean? We need to protect people's privacy. We need to make sure that data is not misappropriated, that people are fairly compensated if their data is used. That includes from small businesses. With regard to workforce, the way that we have to make sure that our workforce doesn't become redundant is that AI has to become a tool of enhancing people's productivity, and it needs to be baked into education as early as kindergarten or first grade, all the way through high school and beyond. We have to make sure that happens. In addition, we have to have safeguards to make sure, for instance, that we don't have a situation where trains are run just through artificial intelligence, or we have hazardous materials transported on trucks without any humans in a cab to help guide and make sure and supervise for safety and other purposes that, materials are taken care of and people are um, uh, kind of kept out of harm's way. On the other side of the ledger, we also have to invest in fundamental research and development in this country in AI to make sure that we always stay as the innovation leader. And ultimately, we have to win the strategic competition with regard to the Chinese Communist Party, who is going all in with regard to AI. We need to remain the world leader in this space. I have specific legislation on that as well.
With the passage of the big beautiful bill this year, we did receive the no tax on tips. However, it just comes out that Illinois, along with Maine and the District of Columbia, have decided not to accept that and to continue to tax tips. Is that something you support? And why do you think Illinois is deciding to do that?
I don't know. I think that some relief there seems appropriate, but let's just talk about the big, beautiful bill as a whole. It is a giant mess. It is going to add trillions and trillions of dollars to our debt, and that debt is going to be on future generations. Not only that, but we're basically benefiting a very small slice, the wealthiest among us, and at the expense of millions of other people who are unfortunately going to lose their health insurance, among other things, or they're going to lose their food assistance through SNAP. I'm a product of food stamps, the predecessor to SNAP, when my family went through economic hardship. And I can tell you that as a product of food stamps, I believe very strongly that everyone should be entitled to be able to eat. Everyone should be able to have some health insurance. And the price of tax cuts for the wealthiest among us should not be people going hungry.
So, do you support the no tax on tips?
In principle, I know that they are kind of working out the regulations at the IRS. I'd like to see that, how that plays out. But I don't support most of the rest of the quote unquote big, beautiful bill or large, lousy law.
And then finally, as far as our beyond the podium questions go, polling data, the latest shows at least 70% of Americans believe that biological males should not have a place in women's sports, especially in high school and youth sports. Earlier this year, Illinois Senators Duckworth and Durbin voted no on the Protect Women in Sports Act. As a senator, would you have voted no? And do you believe that biological males should be able to compete in high school sports in Illinois?
I think this should be an issue for local authorities and local sports leagues. This should not be a federal issue. We should leave it to local districts to decide. We have much more important business to deal with right now. I just don't want anybody to use these types of issues to kind of propagate hate. We got to get beyond hate toward any individual or any group of people because of who they are. Let's come together. Let's get things done. Let's solve the economic challenges that are staring us straight in the face, whether it's tariffs that are decimating our farmers or whether it's this big, beautiful bill I call the large, lousy law, which is going to kill health insurance for more than 500,000 Illinoisans and hurt all of our hospitals in Illinois.
Okay, before I let you go, Raja, going back to just specifically some things for you, representing obviously the 8th District since 2017, you recently voted yes on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Why was it important for you to vote yes on that act?
Oh my God. This is one of those votes that really came out of a series of meetings that I had with the survivors of this child sex trafficking ring that Jeffrey Epstein and his fellow monster, Ghislaine Maxwell, had perpetrated on more than 1,000 plus girls and victims who are now middle-aged women and survivors. And some of the most gut-wrenching testimony interviews that I've held with people. It was specific, it was credible. They have not had justice done to them, or done for them, I should say. And we have to do everything in our power to get those files released, not just to do justice for these survivors, but to prevent this from ever happening again. And I am convinced there was a cover up by the most powerful interests in our country. And now we've got to shed sunlight on the current situation in order to move forward.
And then finally, Raja, you also recently just voted no on the Stop Illegal Entry Act of 2025. Obviously, Illinois has been in the forefront of so much of the undocumented and illegal activity as far as the Trump administration and Operation Midway Blitz. What in that act did you feel wasn't worthy of getting your vote? And where do you stand on federal law enforcement agencies who are running for a federal position and the support that they aren't getting here in Illinois from lawmakers?
Well, remember, in Illinois, local law enforcement, state law enforcement must cooperate with all federal agencies when a criminal arrest warrant is produced. That's something that we've had numerous hearings about. Unfortunately, that has not happened. And it is not the duty or province of local law enforcement then to kind of take it upon themselves to do the work of federal law enforcement agencies. Now, let's talk about ICE. ICE is out of control. ICE in Chicago has done things which I believe are illegal and unconstitutional, and now they are being held accountable in certain courts. But what the Trump administration has done with ICE in terms of snatching U.S. citizens in broad daylight, requiring them to produce their own papers, and then doing so in a way that I believe has also fanned the flames of prejudice and bigotry, again, is un-American. It goes against who we are. Again, we have these economic problems that are staring us in the face right now. We got to come together and deal with those economic problems front and center. And what the Trump administration is doing right now with ICE is not only wrong morally, but it also fails to deal with the economic pain points that people are dealing with and want addressed right now.
Roger, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, sir.